Good morning, everyone. This is the Human Services Delivery Division Tax Prep Chicago webinar for the CDGA RFP. Now, just to make sure everybody can hear, could you type in yes in your dashboard? Okay, so everybody can hear? Good. So my name's Jenny Schuler. I'm the project administrator for this program. So let's go through the agenda. We'll start out with talking just a bit briefly about our strategic framework. I'm sure you've had correspondence regarding this. And then second, why do these RFPs look different? An overview of the high-level changes, our division RFP changes, and the Human Services Delivery Program. Just joining us is Julia Talbot. She's with our policy division. So she'll be speaking to you later on. Now, the next slide, it just shows the divisions as to how our department is broken apart. And you'll notice that we have 8 divisions. Now, everybody's got a strategic framework, but the whole strategic framework is basically that we should all be working together. And like there's an overlap in the human services delivery programs with one another, and then how they tie into the other divisions. Just to keep you aware of, yes, you're a standalone program, but you work in some ways with all of these different divisions, especially like tax prep. You know, it's like everybody does their taxes, except if you're, you know, not working, but in some way, at some point you will be working with them. So next slide is about our department-wide priorities and our refreshed mission. Now, I'm sure you've seen this because it's on everything we have. And everything that's highlighted is that we're building stability, supporting well-being of our citizens, and empowering them to thrive. And thrive is sometimes just a feeling, not monetary. It's that you can thrive being good, feeling a sense of accomplishment, getting things in order, so you're thriving in that way. Our priorities are deliver and support high quality, innovative, and comprehensive services that empower clients to thrive, to feel good about themselves, feel good about the present, look forward to the future. We collaborate with community partners, sister agencies, and public officials on programs and policies that improve Chicagoans' lives and advance systemic changes. And notice it's the systemic change that we're looking at. How are these things have gone out, sometimes maybe for decades. It's like we have to look at the very building blocks of those, of how we want to change. How we'll inform the public of resources available to them through us and our community partners, and most important, how we steward our resources responsibly and effectively. So we're working to translate that strategic framework into results-focused RFPs and contracts. Now, for many of you, this is redundant because you have been doing this for years. However, now with our strategic framework, we have certain words we're using and certain things that we are equating to those words. So we're all talking the same language. So phase 1 was our strategic framework development. from July 2016 to 2017. And basically, we're talking, if you read the bullet points, measure, report on, and refresh goals. Make data-driven decisions that align funding and programs with priorities. And finally, cultivate opportunities for greater collaboration across DFSS. And that, especially that last one, that's how you see the different divisions influencing one another, having opportunities to work with one another, to help one another. And then the November 27 to December 2018, now we're talking about engaging you to improve services and outcomes in line with phase 1 goals. You'll notice when you're reading the RFP, now this we've done with our delegates for decades. I mean, we've talked to them, have had meetings with them, have been influenced by them in doing our RFPs or contracting. And a lot of ways that you know that your work, your suggestions have been incorporated into your contracts in our RFPs. Now we're formalizing that. We're saying, actually, we're putting in writing. We're asking your opinion. You know, we want you to put it in writing. Tell us how these things are going. So we can always improve the quality of our programs rather than just staying the same. The program, now we have new suggestions, so we raise the level, the quality of that program for the next year. So we're conducting more robust planning for the RFPs, and developing RFPs and contracts focused on outcome goals, and we're actively managing our contracts to drive continuous improvement. And that's what I mean. So it's like, I used to be an English teacher, and the kids would say, you know, like when we go through, you know, like a different semester and something, this one kid especially goes, Miss Schuler, your tests are getting harder and harder. And I said, well, because you're getting smarter and smarter. And that's the thing. Yes, they get a little harder, but the thing is, it's a challenge. It's not that they're harder. It's that you've increased the quality of your work, your program. So we incorporate that. So we allow you to continue continuous improvement, upgrades to your own work. Okay, we make changes to our RFPs, selection of criteria, and application questions for the CDGA cycle. This, as I was stating before, you reinforce these things. Ensure outcomes continue to be the center of our work. Develop a shared understanding of priorities for and how we will track improvement. That's especially about tracking improvement. If you think that we're not looking at something that's important, you have to point it out to us. It's like, no, don't look at that, because this is maybe like a middle kind of thing, and we've done it over here at a different level. So it's this constant kind of two-way communication that we're looking at the correct things and what to look at when we're tracking and looking for quality services. And then we've adjusted the structured content of our RFPs and application questions to shift focus from activities to goals. Now, that doesn't mean we're taking away the activities. No, because you need those activities to achieve the goals. But we're not saying like, you read 100 books, you know, like if you were in school. This is the goal, to read 100 books. Well, No, actually, the goal was maybe to understand the family dynamics in 100 stories, 100 different stories, and this is the list of stories. So you're looking at something bigger than just the reading. So here, we're not just looking at the activities, but what the goal is. For example, with my emergency food program. Okay, you want to deliver 100 pounds of food. Well, what does that mean? Okay, yeah. And our vendors now, they, in total for last year, they delivered 1.2 million pounds of food. But what they did, that was the activity. The goal was they provided nutritious meals consisting of fresh fruits and vegetables to over 100 meals, which is like, I forgot how many weeks of food for people in pantries. So you're looking from the activity to delivering food to the outcome. This many people provided nutritious foods, meals for 3 weeks. Align DFS priorities with selection criteria and application questions. So we're trying to make that, when you read the application, more aligned, that you understand where the selection criteria and why the application questions are posed that way. And we're posing questions that provide the most relevant information for decision making. A lot of times, and that's why we're asking you about what you know, how you know these things, who you're collaborating with, why do you have certain views, or why do you think these things are important? So our RFPs articulate what we want to achieve for Chicagoans rather than focusing on activities alone. And that way, we're reporting on people, the makeup of those people, rather than the activities alone. Yes, we want to know those activities, but how does that activity relate to people who we want to achieve it for, our target population, where we are today, and priorities for future of the program. Okay, and this is pretty much for you. What do you think about your program? What would you like us looking at? You know your program, and you know yourself. When you get accustomed to something, it's like, and you've been doing it a long time, how can I sort of up my game? What else should I be looking at? Now, you may not be able to do it at the time, and that's partly with funding, but you can say, this is how I want to progress, and what can I do, or what we can do together, or who do we know that we can move and achieve this other objective. Of course, that we always have to go with the program requirements, and these are the most important, that you have to do the basic things. I mean, because these are the building blocks for your programs forever. You can't forget your building blocks. And the performance measures, how we'll measure success and progress against outcome goals and work together to improve. So those programming requirements, the performance measures, that's what we look at to see if you're achieving the building blocks, how can we help you to expand upon that, increase our outcome goals. And then the next slide. The selection, this I think it's redundant. So read them closely, but this is what we're looking for. On the right-hand side, the new selection criteria, the strength of proposed program, the program performance, outcomes, and quality. Application has strong past performance and is capable of collecting and using data to manage performance. 3, your organizational capacity, your staff, systems, processes to execute the work and diversity of communities it serves. Of course, we're looking always, it's like you can always get the base, like the mainstream people. It's like, think of it with teaching. You're going to get at least half the students. You have to put an effort in to get more students. Then you're going to have to put in more effort or different kind of ideas to get those stragglers. The idea, though, is to get everybody in. And if that means people that are outside directly of your site that you're working at, that they're a little further out and you need to get in touch with them by some kind of outreach, or they have a physical disability, it's difficult for them to get in, or they have a language. So we need diversity in language. So those are the things that, especially because you're serving the whole community. And this is your community as the city of Chicago. So you want to get everybody that's eligible for this program in to be served. And of course, the last is reasonable cost, budget justification, and leverage of funds. So we're aiming to solicit strong responses to help DFSS make more informed decisions. We've developed more specific questions tailored to more the human services context. And we added questions to reflect focus on evidence, best practices, and using data to improve. And to the larger number of questions have been broken down to help applicants be more focused and provide answers just to the specific question, rather than feeling that it's like I have to give the whole story, and then maybe what they're looking for I've supplied in that huge story. Maybe if we pose the question more of to a shorter, breakdown, focus it, we'll get a more specific question answer. Okay, example questions. What are the challenges and critical needs facing your intended client population? Describe the evidence base or best practices that support the proposed program. And then please tell about 1 to 2 times your agency made a programmatic or organizational change based on data collected. Now, especially for the tax prep program, for some programs, they don't have as many changes going on as to regulations or the populations that they serve that are impacted, especially with the new tax laws, the status of immigrants in our country. This affects your target population and the number of people you will come into your organization to be served. So those are things sort of like, what are your challenges? Well, you can put down, this is a changing landscape for us. So we don't know what our total outcomes might be because of this. Next slide. Oh, good, the program description. You'll notice too, even usually we have this program titled Tax Preparation Assistance. Well, we sort of jazzed it up a little and just made it more like Tax Prep Chicago. Shortened it and sort of made it more, I don't know what you would call it, but it's a little more modernization. So the objective of the program is to provide free tax preparation to individuals earning up to $30,000 and families earning up to $55,000, with peak activity from January through mid-April. And isn't it lucky we're having this webinar April 20th, and last day was April 17th, so everybody can participate. Okay, these are the requirements. So you have to serve individuals earning up to $30,000 and families earning up to $55,000 in Chicago. You have to be an approved IRS VETA provider, plan to operate at least 6 separate sites, and each site must be able to serve at least 15 people per session. Now, yes, you'll probably have more sites, but this is the minimum that will be considered for this application. You have to provide tax services to underserved populations, limited English proficiency and physical disabilities, plan and execute a public relations marketing approach to reach eligible participants in all wards and community areas. It's sort of like sometimes people think, well, it's just certain areas that get services. No, we're looking at the whole city of Chicago. And yes, they might be close to the borders, but we're still looking, then you attend to those people that are close to the borders also. You have to provide a listing of tax prep sites to include the address, ward, community area, and days and hours of operation. And these may be, if you're not already a provider, then these would have to be ones that you already have set for the following tax season. Or if you are currently a provider, you can use your current listing, though this may change for the next tax prep season. You can use that. And you always have to maintain records regarding the income eligibility of each client for their program eligibility. Performance measures may include the following. And when they say may, it's may because after we get applications in and contracts awarded, after we review those responses from organizations, we may find that, yes, you would like to be considered for additional or different performance measures to be included into your contract. It's, I know many agencies are not satisfied with just providing the minimum. Their organization wants to be challenged to increase what they're doing to be more meaningful for them and their participants, and which brings the quality of that program up. So, but what we're doing here is number of tax prep sites, number of tax returns, and the dollar value of refunds. Now, I know especially with this dollar value of refunds with the new tax laws and with proposed changes to not directly with IRS, but certain things are being changed that would limit certain populations' ability to file for the earned income tax credit. So these will be impacting that bottom line. So that's pretty much tax prep is pretty much straightforward, although your comments to questions posed in the proposal are really thoughtful questions that that you need to answer, and you can answer honestly, just so we know what kind of environment you are working in, so we can help prepare for our funding of agencies, our funding of those populations, and see how we can do the best together. So the program description is in the main RFP, and they're on pages 78 to page 80. You can link onto it on our DFSS website, so you can just go to City of Chicago. That description is on page 78 to 80. Read it thoroughly. Read it a couple of times because you might miss something. I know I had reviewed the program description. Okay, so that's final. And since you've been working with it so much, I read it a lot of times. And then I read it in the RFP. And some of the lines had changed. I was like, where did this come from? Now, it wasn't bad that they added it, but it would have been nice to know they were promoting this performance measures and collaboration and looking at data and all that stuff. But the thing is, it didn't come before it was posted. So what I'm saying is, if you've applied before, you're accustomed to the way it's been posed for viewers. I want you to read it and reread it again so you get those little nuances. And applications are due May 31st at 12 noon. Your biggest thing is our homepage. So cityofchicago.org, you go to Family and Support Services. There's a section there that says Alerts. Now you can get it by using that website that's two lines long. Easier if you just go to our website and hit on Alerts, because it's posed like if you have questions on registration, because you have to do that right away, that before you do anything to do the RFP, you have to register. So it has an active link there for technical assistance for your delegate agencies. It's the OBM website that you just hit the link on or call. It's that hotline. So it might be a couple of hours. The hotline is not like 911. So sometimes it does take a little longer, but if you start earlier and you use the link or the telephone number, you will get assistance right away. And also, they have the training materials. That's an active link. You could do it that way. And these are all active links when you go onto our website. So you don't have to go through that 2 lines of, letters. So make sure, start early. So the same here, register into the iSupplier eProcurement as soon as possible. And that's that other slide about if you have questions on registration, that's where you do it. So hit that one on first. So, and like I said, read the narrative on the program just because of the special little nuances on how it's really, the nuances are collaboration, speaking out, working together, telling us what's good, saying what's not too good. Don't look at that. Look at this. Let's see. Carefully review the evaluation criteria. And now in the description, it says how we're going to evaluate it. And it's a 100-point system. So read it. Now, I expect, now this is just my expectations, but I figure you have until May 31st. You have plenty of time. Yes, you may work with different people in your organization to work on different parts because you want the person that's most knowledgeable, most qualified in answering certain questions. And then you want certain people that are good at detail to review the thing. So, but don't just look at the points because I'm expecting, you to get the maximum points in each area. I mean, you do it that way, and that's the way. It's not like you're in high school or college doing a test. In high school especially, they'll give you, points for certain areas of a test. And you've got an hour or 45 minutes in your high school class. And you've got that amount of time. So you see the points assigned, you've got 45 minutes, and your mind goes to the points. No, because the people in that way, they're going to the points and they're filling out that best, and then they're forgetting the other points. Might be less point value, but it goes into that whole 100-point thing. So assign those sections, put your time into everything equally, and you'll get the most points. I mean, it's like with me, I am poor in directions. Don't ask me to do directions. I'm not that good in talking like this, just off the cuff. Don't put me in that environment. Now, if you're talking about organization or writing, yes, that's the one you want me to put. Don't put me in this area. Use my time and resources in that area. So that's what I expect you to do. Everybody do their area to the best of their ability. Have the people review those things that are good at reviewing things and saying to somebody, this doesn't make sense, or wasn't somebody else doing this in our organization? Why don't we find out what he's doing or what she's doing? And then finally, use spell check. And if you have, use grammar check. And this first thing, I think, Julia, you want to talk about this?
Sure. Hi, this is talking about working in the eProcurement environment. So as you know, eProcurement is our new application and contracting management system. It's universal to the entire city system. Our first bullet, applicants can submit multiple applications for a single RFP under one email address. In prior applications for other RFPs, this was not something that people could do. If you wish to make multiple applications for this program model, then given the scope, I don't see that being relevant. But if you were, you should be able to do it under one email address. You wouldn't need to do it two. So this glitch has been fixed. As Jenny mentioned in a prior slide, there is a 4,000 character limit, which includes punctuation and spaces. And so every question that you're asked to provide a text answer to is going to be limited to 4,000 characters. We have modified our questions to include, we've revised our questions so that we think that people should be able to answer what we have asked sufficiently within that limitation. One thing about this new system is that it allows you to submit your application and pull it back to amend it up until the due date of May 31st at noon. So if you can save your application, but you can also submit it to us. And then if you want to amend it, or you submit early and then something happens, or you realize you forgot something or whatever, you are able to pull that application back, update it, and then resubmit it. Which brings us to my next point, which is that this is a new system. We have 26 different RFPs going out under the CDGA umbrella. That does not include RFPs from other city departments. And so we're expecting a pretty big load to be going into the eProcurement system. I would suggest to you that you avoid the rush and any possible mishaps or crashes or whatever, just because we don't know, and submit early. Late applications will not be accepted. So I would make a big point of making sure that you save your applications, you submit them so that in a way that you are able to later amend them, that you put your stuff in early, because we cannot accept late applications. To do that, we need to reissue the entire RFP, which means that everybody who got their application in on time would have to resubmit their applications. And generally speaking, that is just not fair, and we don't, we don't want to do that. So just remember, May 31st at 12 noon or earlier for submitting.
I've got a question. So when you're saying they can submit earlier up until the due date, now, but we will not take them as submitted till after that. So it's not like we're going to say on May 30th, oh, let's look at everybody that came in at May 30th, their application. So I don't want them thinking, hey, I want to avoid the crash, so a possible crash, so I'm going to do it at May 30th. And then, oh,
I forgot to upload that resume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so what you're saying is we're not going to have access until after the due date. So we're not going to touch your application.
No, we're not going to look at applications or evaluate applications until after that May 31st due date, because we don't know if they're permanent. That being said, I really do suggest that you submit earlier. That also is, this is a new system. Everybody is new to it. You're new to it. We're new to it. And I would say to that end, don't hesitate to reach out, start early for that reason. Make use of the procurement hotline. It's 312-744-0358. You can also call me, and I can help with some things as well. But this is another reason just to start early with writing your application. Moving to the next slide. So this is just to talk about addendums and notifications. We've already had an instance where we realized that something was a file attachment that you need to complete the application was not included. So we've amended the application, or the RFP. If you have not started your application or opened the RFP and sort of started the process, I don't think you'll have to accept this addendum, but if you already have, you will receive this page when you go in to start working, and you'll need to acknowledge the required, and accept the amendment, which in this case, there'll be something that says why it's been amended. In this case, we neglected to upload 2 files that you need to the work program file to do your application, and so you'll see that and you'll accept that. Of course, we don't want to have to do any more of these addendums or amendments, but you just never know. It's 26 applications, and some stuff, there's got to be a typo in there somewhere. If you find one, please email me and yourself. No, it's okay. Mistakes happen, and we'll do the amendment to make sure that everybody's getting the correct information. And that being said, that brings us to the end of our webinar here. If you have questions on the program content, you can, of course, contact Jenny at her information. For non-programmatic questions, you should contact me, or more general stuff. But Jenny is the person to contact should you have specific questions that relate to the application or to the program model itself, including ones about the budget. We can now open up the floor for questions. If you have them, you can type your questions in the question
Yeah.
box.
And I'll tell you, you know, from working with my delegates and working with this new strategic framework, like I said, we're just all using the same language and sort of taking the best outcomes that our delegates have proposed and putting them all together. So we're looking to, you know, have a higher caliber of program consistently. You know, it's not to say yours isn't. And I'm just saying we went on record. It's like you've got the A, so we're just going to make sure that the A is in there. And sort of like that's going to be the base, that A. So, but don't be hesitant or feel fearful about our RFP. So on that, thank you. Have a nice weekend.
No questions? No questions? Well, thank you. And we look forward to reading your application.
Mm-hmm.